Zodiac Academy, huh? It is one of the only books I've ever read that is truly irredeemable. Like, it's not the worst thing I've ever read. It's pretty bad, don't get me wrong. But it is irredeemable in the sense that you can't fix it. Like, if you start tweaking things and changing things to try and make it better, then by the time this book even became passable, it would be something completely different. Zodiac Academy is irredeemable.
This is the introduction song. It's not very good, but it's not too long.
If you want to make all the time I spent reading it worth it, go down below. Check out some of my merchandise. I got this hoodie, as well as some other stuff. But yes, Zodiac Academy, it's not the worst thing ever. It is bad, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't even put this in like the top 10 worst books I've ever read. It's just irredeemable. Just throw it in the trash. There's nothing here. Like, there's no good ideas that you could play around with and go, oh, okay, maybe this will give me inspiration for my own writing. No, there's nothing here. And at first, I thought it wasn't that bad. You know, the first like 15 to 20% of the book before the characters actually go to the magical academy, I was thinking it wasn't that bad. And I also will say that this book isn't particularly long, so that was kind of nice. I didn't have to put up with it for too long. But this book as a whole is very derivative of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and that is much, much more obvious at the beginning, because it's literally just the main characters are orphans, they have a crappy life on Earth, and then someone comes along and tells them, hey, actually, you're not just regular orphans, you're magical orphans, you had very important parents, and you're going to be super important in this other magical world. Do you want to come over there and go to magical school where you'll run into magical threats? And they're like, yeah, sure, that sounds like fun. It's literally just Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, you're not even fucking trying.
However, once they get to school, that's it. That's everything. There's no plot. It's literally just the two lead girls going around Zodiac Academy while ogling hot boys and also getting bullied for no reason. We'll get more into the bullying a bit later, and admittedly, there are a few vague hints about how, hey, maybe there will be an actual story later, eventually, sometime, something might happen, but there's nothing actually happening in this book. Like, minor spoiler, it ends with a cliffhanger where somebody dies and we don't know exactly how they died or what happened or who did anything to them, but that's it. Like, we have a little bit of hints that maybe there will be something later. That's it. There's no plot in this book. At least the first Harry Potter book introduced, you know, villains and the central conflict that would go throughout the whole series. And even though the first book and the next couple of sequels have kind of a whimsical fairy tale feel to them, and they're very, very childish, the central conflict was, again, it was at least introduced. Like, we knew who Voldemort was, and we knew he was an evil wizard who was racist, and we knew that he was going to be the main villain going through. And at the end of the first book, they had set him back, but it was also clear that they hadn't defeated him for good. He was still around. It also wasn't porn, which, you know, Zodiac Academy, it was a popular TikTok book, so I feel it goes without saying that, yeah, this is just here as porn. That's what it is. Look, not everything in Zodiac Academy is awful, okay? There's a couple of things that are fine. Like, I thought the writing itself, for the most part, like the prose of it, was fine. Like, I still have complaints about it, but I thought it was fine. I thought the opening couple of chapters were, again, fine. There were a few parts where it was describing the scenery, and I thought it was kind of good. And, I mean, I can't fault it for just being right out in the open about the fact that it's pure wish fulfillment and you're not supposed to... Well, I shouldn't say that the book is aware you're not supposed to take it seriously, because the book really wants you to take it seriously. But it is very honest about the fact that it's wish fulfillment, and I guess that's kind of nice. But whatever good stuff is in here, it feels like the authors were not even trying. Like, everything good or passable that is in this book happened completely on accident. And it's just... I don't know, I've never read a book that felt this fucking lazy. You remember that Netflix show, Fate, the Winx saga? Like, I thought it was a passable teen drama. Like, I've never watched the original Winx Club, so that is coloring my opinion. Most of the complaints I heard about that were that it is, you know, way different than the original source material. But I thought it was fine. And I bring that up because it has essentially the exact same plot as this. Like, regular girl from the regular world finds out there's a hidden magical world and she's super special, and she's also a fairy and she has all the special fairy powers because she's special. Like, it's basically the same plot. But Fate the Winx Saga at least felt like the people involved were putting in effort. It felt like the writers, directors, actors, everyone, it felt like they were trying, like they wanted to get a job after this. So the show was goofy and kind of dumb, but it had personality. I think it was a perfectly serviceable show before Netflix, being Netflix, decided to cancel it. Zodiac Academy feels like annoyed employees are going down a checklist. Like, they have to do this, they have to do that, they have to go through all this, and they're putting in the absolute minimum amount of effort into literally every line of this book. Like, the setup for this book, sure, it's something we've all seen 100 times before, but they could have used it as, like, shorthand. They could have just said, hey, we're gonna have, like, 2 chapters worth of stuff in the real world, and then we're just going to say, hey, they're going to a magic school now. And the book would understand that it doesn't really need to go into detail about that because we already understand it. So that's what I mean when I say it could use it as shorthand. And then we get to the fun Magic Academy stuff. Like, it's just saying, yeah, you've seen this before, let's get to the action. That could have been fun, but shorthand can't be your entire book. Like, there has to be something else there. And honestly, that's what Zodiac Academy feels like. It feels like the authors were just bringing up random tropes that you've seen 100 times before and then just throwing them in, and there's no other thought or exploration or anything. Like, the entire book is just shorthand for stuff that we've seen and we liked before. It's like trying to make a cake out of nothing but frosting, except the frosting also tastes like shit. So I haven't talked a lot about the actual story, such as it is here. It's about these 2 twin girls named Darcy and Tori, who are exactly the same person. There is nothing different about them. They are the same person. And you might think that the authors would do something with that, but no. Having 2 leads really just means they write every chapter twice and pretend that this is a full book instead of the first draft of a novella. Because there's a chapter where one of them joins a magic house, and then there's a chapter where the other one joins a different magic house, and both go through similar hazing. So they're just going through the exact same plot points twice. It's just the same thing. Again, this was written by 2 authors, and we have 2 POV characters, so I was thinking while reading, like, wouldn't it have been interesting if they had one author write the POV chapters from one character, and then another author write it for the other character, so that it would be easy to tell their narration apart? They would both be writing in different styles. Maybe that would be kind of cool, but that's pretty clearly not what happened here because their narrative voices are exactly the same. Tori and Darcy have the exact same narration, they have the exact same personality, they have the exact same thoughts on everything. They're just the same person.
Oh, you're not even fucking trying.
I mean that. You could come here, put a gun to my head. I could not tell you a single difference between these 2. Why bother having twins, to be honest with you? Why bother having 2 main characters if you clearly only wanted to write one? I don't know, but that's what they did. And you might be thinking that this is deliberate and that they might be doing something interesting with it, which, yeah, they could do that, but that's not what they do in this book. You could use it to show that, yeah, they're twins and they've always been together, but they've been passed around from a bunch of different foster homes throughout their whole childhood, so they really don't have any other family or friends besides each other, and as a result, they are attached at the hip and they grow kind of codependent and they don't really know how to operate as individuals. They don't know how to operate as independent people, but they still love each other, obviously, and maybe this idea of them being unable to operate independently could be utilized to show how they grow and show how they develop and change over the course of the story. But that's not what's done here. They're just the exact same person. The book opens with one of them breaking into a house to steal some money to show that she's cool and desperate. And then the next chapter shows one of them stealing a motorcycle for money because she's cool and desperate. It's literally just the same thing twice. And honestly, when I was first reading, I didn't even realize that these were supposed to be 2 different characters, because again, it's all in fucking first-person POV, so there's not even reminders in the narration that, like, oh yeah, this is Tori we're following now, or this is Darcy we're following now. It's just the same shit. But it also doesn't really matter, because both of these characters do the same things throughout the whole book. They just repeat it twice. And then immediately after one of them steals the motorcycle, a magical hot fairy shows up and spirits them away to magical fairyland, because they are secretly royalty, and their magic is better than everyone else's, just naturally. They don't have to try or practice or anything. They're just better, because why not front load all the wish fulfillment, right? You know, Harry Potter might be for children, but it is written so much better than this. You know, it spends a while building up Hogwarts, and again, I'm talking about the first book here. Like, we spend a lot of time with Harry and the Dursleys, so we see how crappy his life is, and you want to see him, you know, escape it. You want to see him leave. And then we spend some time with Hagrid, so that we're eased into this magical world. You know, and obviously there's a couple of hints early in the book that Harry has powers, but we are eased into the magical world because we spend some time with Hagrid, then we go to Diagon Alley and we meet some of these people and we hear hints about the wider conflict, and then we finally go to Hogwarts. By having the opening section of Zodiac Academy only be a couple of chapters, like, yeah, it goes by really quick, and that's kind of nice if you just want to get to the action, but it doesn't feel like the authors wanted it to be fast-paced. It feels like they didn't want to write it at all. You know, we only really see these characters' lives for maybe a chapter's worth of content, because other than that, they're just, like, doing stuff, and we're not really getting a feel for what they're like and what their life is like. And honestly, their lives aren't that bad. They're just poor. It also does that thing that a lot of really crappy books, like, this is, again, it's porn, so it's not really young adult, but it's pretty clearly trying to emulate the style of young adult writing. And it does that thing that a lot of bad YA does, where the protagonist is dark and edgy, but they only ever steal from people or hurt people who are just cartoonishly awful. You know, like, the house that one of the characters is breaking into at the beginning is their former foster father's house, and he's just cartoonishly awful and bad the entire time, so we don't have to grapple with any of the morality that, you know, is involved in stealing from people. Because the authors want to be edgy, but they don't want to commit to it. Cough, 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 vigor mortis. Wow, who brought that up? This book would be so much more interesting if the main characters were just kind of shitty people. Like, there's a book series I read years ago, and I believe I do have a video on it, called Escape from Furnace, where the protagonist of those books, he is a thief. He's similar to these guys. He breaks into people's houses and steals stuff, and he's an awful little shit. Like, he's just a teenager, but he's an awful little shit. And because of that, he winds up in a situation where he gets framed for murder and sent to prison. He didn't do the murder, but also he wouldn't have gotten framed for it if he wasn't a thief. You know, he's a bad person, and the book makes no excuses for him, and so that makes him more interesting, but simultaneously more sympathetic, because as bad as he is, he's in such a horrible situation that we want to see him get out of it. But the main character girls in Zodiac Academy, everyone loves them for no reason, except for a lot of people who hate them for no reason. Like, again, they don't have anything resembling a personality here. And they also just get all the best stuff handed to them just for existing. And I'm gonna be honest with you, if this is your wish fulfillment, like if this is your fantasy, to get all the best things handed to you just because you exist, I do think a little bit less of you as a person. Like, you know, power fantasies are supposed to be about being able to fix things and achieving independence and freedom and stuff, not just existing and everyone loves you. That is really weird and narcissistic. I've said before that romantasy is written by people who think they're too good for fantasy, and Zodiac Academy solidifies that further. Like, the world building here is not just lazy, there's a weird contempt for it. Like, the authors are mad, and they hate that they have to spend 10 seconds copying the setting from another fantasy series instead of just writing more fairy sex. Well, I say copying another fantasy world, but I don't think either of them has ever read any actual fantasy. Like, they seem like they have a vague idea of how it's supposed to work, and then they just awkwardly copy that vague idea without doing any research or putting in any effort. Like, there's a parallel world where the fairies live, because Again, it's always horny fairies in these types of fucking books.
Oh, you're not even fucking trying.
But there's a parallel world where they all live, and all the fairies look and act exactly like people, so they don't have to think about things, and the heroes can fuck them without being accused of bestiality. Then there's the school itself, is the Zodiac Academy, which exists. It is a school for magic. There's no personality. You know, it's nothing like Hogwarts, which was full of secrets and mysteries, and it was very clearly an old place, which had been around for a long time. Like, we get nothing like that here. What does Zodiac Academy look like? Does it have any hidden or restricted areas? What secrets does it hold? Don't worry about it. It has horny fairies, and that's the only reason we're here. The government of this world is some sort of monarchy that the main character girls are heirs to for some reason. Like, they're just, okay, they're descended from the old royal family, so they're supposed to inherit. That makes sense, but also they just kind of throw them into this without any tutoring or bodyguards or anything. They just say, hey, go to this school, and when you graduate, you can be in charge. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be great queens, not knowing anything about this world or anything. Like, again, you'd think they would sequester them a little bit. You know, again, they'd give them bodyguards to make sure nothing bad happens to them, and they would give them tutors to help them get caught up on everything. I guess that's not important. But also the bullies that are bullying them throughout most of the book tell them they should give up the throne, so I guess that's an option. I don't know how this works, but that's an option. And this isn't pretentious nitpicking, this is foundational to the story, because the whole reason they go to Zodiac Academy is because they're told, hey, you're heirs to this kingdom, and if you graduate from school, you get all this money and power. And that's the only reason they go. There's also magic here, which is a huge part of pretty much any fantasy world. How does the magic work? Well, it's based on 4 elements: air, water, earth, and fire.
Oh, you're not even fucking trying.
4 elements with no further creativity tells me that you have not read much fantasy. You know, just last year I read Vampire Academy, and, like, those books aren't very good. They have parts that are good, but overall they're really nothing special. However, the magic in it is also based on 4 elements, and they do something kind of interesting with it, because in the first book they make it clear that there are some people, they're rare, but there are some people who have a 5th element called spirit. And spirit is very mysterious. It has unusual applications that people don't really understand, people don't know that much about it, but they do know that the more you use it, the more it will slowly drive you insane. So altogether, that comes out and it makes it kind of cool. It made the heroes special while still fitting into the setting. In fact, it actually made the setting a little bit deeper because the characters and the audience are discovering new things about this world at the same time. Zodiac Academy doesn't even bother pretending that they're trying. Here's an idea. You're named after the Zodiac. Why not have magic based on zodiac signs? You know? You could have 13 schools of magic instead of just 4. Or, hey, why not say that most people can only use the 4 elements, but there are some people that have other elements, like, again, spirit, lightning, time, ice, metal, hydrogen, etc. You know, you could put basically anything there that you want. You know, then you could give the leads a special, unique power, rather than saying they have the same powers as everyone else, but theirs are better for no reason. For example, maybe one of the twins has lightning powers or time powers, while the other one has powers over metal or wood, or, you know, just something like that. So, you know, they're hard to tell apart. You could at least give them different magic or something. Like, the thing that makes the twins special is that they both have all 4 elements, and most people don't. But then there are some people who also have all 4 elements. So, like, they're special, but not that special, really. You know, if you really wanted to just go this route, you could have made them like the Avatar, where they're the only ones who have all 4 elements, and nobody else has that. Like, I don't know, just an idea. And how does magic function? Don't worry about it. Like, even the book skims over that a lot. Like, they have classes. They have classes for all the 4 elements. They have air magic class, water magic class, earth magic class, and fire magic class, and that's it. There's no variety, and they just learn to use magic. How do they use magic? They use magic. There's no actual process. There's no complexity to it. They use magic sometimes, and again, they just have those 4 classes, which is boring. And if you're going to rip off Harry Potter, at least do a better job of it, because Harry had variety in his classes. You know, they had potions, they had defense against the dark arts, they had care of magical creatures, stuff like that. It gave the world dimension, and it really did feel like this was an education that was trying to prepare these kids for life in the real world. And by real world, I mean like the magical wizarding world. Characters in Zodiac Academy are also able to do mind control. I'm not sure how those 4 elements allow them to do that, but whatever. And just like Harry Potter, there are 4 houses that all the students are sorted into. And the 4 houses are just based on the 4 elements.
Oh, you're not even fucking trying.
They could have made them, you know, distinct in some way, but I guess that would require effort. And I guess the one thing this book does that actually caught me a little bit off guard is that the twins do join different houses. One of them joins the fire house, which is called Ignis, and the other one joins the air house, which is called Arrow. And also, all of the students just choose what house they want to join instead of having some sort of, you know, sorting hat ceremony or anything. Why bother choosing if there's no difference between any of these houses? Don't worry about it. Again, there's no difference. Like, in Harry Potter, the houses were based on, like, your personality traits, so it would kind of make sense to separate them that way, and just based on what house someone was in, you could tell something about them, but I guess that doesn't matter. We don't need to do that in Zodiac Academy. Romantasy is for people who hate fantasy, okay? Like, you know, why would you want to get lost in a unique setting? Why give this school and its world their own value system? Why have the characters develop by showing what sort of personality traits they have and how this new world views them? Don't worry about it. Just forget all about that shit. We are only here to fuck fairies. You know, speaking of fairies, sometimes the fairies are just randomly vampires, or werewolves, or sirens, or dragons. Like, it's not genetic or anything. They're just sometimes other stuff, but they're still fairies. Okay, you know, what they could have just made this a magical world populated by different races with complicated and interesting relationships, but that might take work. Like, all these different orders of fairies, which is what they're called in the books, different orders, even if they're all fairies and they all come from kind of the same place, in the real world, similar cultures will still have conflicts. Look at Russia and Ukraine. They have similar cultures, but there are important differences. For example, Russia loves Fred Durst, and Ukraine literally banned him from the country. That is a true fact, actually. Yeah, the singer from Limp Bizkit is not allowed to enter Ukraine. But on top of that, like, why are you so desperate for everything to be fairies if they're not even gonna actually be fairies? You know, why is it always fairies? Months ago, I put out a video explaining why paranormal romance is better than romantasy, and one reason that I gave is that everything is shadow fairies. You know, paranormal romance, as bad as it is, it at least has variety. You know, it has different creatures. It has vampires, angels, demons, aliens, mermaids, just immortal magical dudes. You know, there's variety. And back when paranormal romance really hit its peak in the early 2010s, most of those books were ripping off Twilight, yeah, but they were trying to look like they weren't ripping off Twilight. And I swear, authors today are afraid to not look like they're ripping off Sarah J. Maas. I seriously don't understand why you would go so far out of your own way to do exactly the same thing that everyone else is already doing. Anyways, the teachers at this school also randomly attack students sometimes. That's just a thing. It's just normal here. Like, they physically attack their students, and that's fine, I guess. One of the main character girls, and I don't know which one it is. You could put a gun to my head. I would not be able to tell you if this was Tori or Darcy, but one of the main character girls starts having sex with their vampire fairy teacher, but she is 18, so it's okay and not at all unprofessional. I'm only half joking at that. Like, it's a kind of a miracle that they actually made the main characters 18 before deciding that they should start having sex with older men. But at the same time, yeah, that's unprofessional, if nothing else, and, like, it's just creepy to be involved with your teachers like that. Like, I know once you reach a college level and you're actually adults, like, it's not illegal anymore, but it is still creepy. Also, the twins are in danger for most of the book. Is there an evil wizard after them? No, there's just hot bullies that abuse them.
Oh, No, you're not even fucking trying.
All of the boys at Zodiac Academy are equally hot, and they're all hot in the exact same way. Like, the book even lampshades this. Like, there's a passage where it says that they're all just as hot and muscular as each other, which is just boring. You know, give us a little bit of variety. If everyone is equally sexy, and they're all sexy in the exact same way, then it gets old. You know, like, if you want the love interests to stand out, then they have to stand out. You know, just have all the other people described as being average and looking different, and then this guy who main character girl is supposed to be really attracted to is really attractive. Zodiac Academy is supposed to be bully romance, but bully romance really just means I abuse you, but it's okay because I'm hot. And it's like way more explicit about it than terrible romance usually is. Okay, even setting aside that there is absolutely no chemistry between the leads and their love interests, and there is none at all. Even setting that aside, they are just bullies. Like, very, very explicitly, they're bullies. And I don't like bullies. These are people who use their superior strength or magic ability to humiliate and hurt people for nothing more than their own amusement. And it's not like these are 12-year-old kids with a crappy home life, so you can kind of sympathize with why they're doing that and why they're lashing out. These are adults. Everyone here is college-aged. Like, these are in their late teens and some of them in their early 20s. They don't have excuses for acting like this. So why the fuck should I like or care about anything that's happening here? You know, why should I like anything? Why should I like anyone? Why should I care about anything? Why should I care about anyone? Everyone is either an asshole or they're just pathetic and annoying. I want them all to be shipped off to a deserted island where I don't have to see them anymore. And also, if Tori and Darcy are supposed to grow up and become the queens of this kingdom, why the fuck are you going out of your way to antagonize and hurt them? That seems like it might backfire in a spectacular manner a couple of years from now. I feel like there would be some people at this academy who are nice to them and just trying to get on their good side because they know they might be powerful one day. Or, hell, they might just be normal fucking people, and they might just say, hey, a new student at my new college, nice to meet you. I'm insert name here. Like, most people are just kind of normal, and most people who are normal are just kind of nice most of the time. Most of the characters in this book are supposed to be college students, but they act like middle schoolers. And it's really strange. It's very, very strange. Their classes even cover all the most basic stuff about magic and all the most basic stuff about their world. And sure, it makes sense for Tori and Darcy to need to take classes on that because they didn't even know any of this was real until recently. But shouldn't all of the others have already gone to school? Shouldn't they already know all this most basic stuff about their world and how magic works? Like, the fact that they're teaching this in a college-level school makes everything feel off. Like, again, this would all make sense if they were like 10 or 11 years old, you know, like the book they're copying. But it doesn't make sense. Everyone acts like children, but they say fuck, and they also have hardcore sex scenes. FBI, open up! There is a lot more to being an adult than those two things. I'm just saying. Like, sure, those are often part of it, but there's more to it than that. And as for the bullying, sure, that does suck, and I did feel bad for the leads at a couple of points because people do some really nasty and unpleasant stuff to them, but it's largely only happening because this school has no one enforcing the fucking rules, which is stupid in its own way. Like, they're just letting these, I was about to say children, but they're not children. They're just letting all of these children in adult bodies go feral and go wild and physically attack and hurt each other, and no one cares. No one's doing anything because the authors desperately wanted to show that, oh yeah, the heroes are in danger. But here's an idea. If you want your characters to be in danger, put them in danger. Put them in dangerous situations. Don't send them to middle school university. Again, Harry Potter. Hogwarts was only dangerous if you broke the rules or if Wizard Hitler came by. Like, those were the times when actual danger happened. Other than that, if the students just sort of were students and behaved themselves, they were fine. Another good example of this is Camp Half-Blood from the Percy Jackson books. Camp Half-Blood was relatively safe for most of the series. So whenever the author wanted to show that the characters were in danger, they would have to leave Camp Half-Blood and go on quests. That's where all the danger is. The danger is out in the real world. Alright, so what are some other details about Zodiac Academy, The Awakening, that are worth mentioning? One of the twins is afraid of water. Years ago, she had a traumatic experience. That is all we learn. Like, it's literally just that one sentence. Years ago, she had a traumatic experience. Why would we want details? That might make us care. Sometimes characters and locations and stuff have Latin names, but then other times they have Greek names. I don't know why. There seems to be no rhyme or reason to it. You could honestly tell me that the authors don't realize Latin and Greek are different languages, and I would believe you. There's a couple of points where there's a professor who is openly perving on not just the two heroes, but other girls as well, and openly making very sexual comments to them in front of a bunch of other people. That's apparently just normal. I mean, that's not unheard of in a college setting, but still, it's like remarkably unprofessional. At one point, they visit a nearby Fey town. Again, Harry Potter, Hogwarts was right next to Hogsmeade. So they visit a magical Fey town in this magical Fey world. What's it like? It is exactly like every town on Earth. There are cars, there are bars, there's no magic in sight. It's just exactly like a town on Earth.
Oh, you're not even fucking...
Throughout most of the book, no one wants to be friends with the main character girls, and we're supposed to feel bad for them. Except that there is one person who wants to be their friend, but she's annoying, so the main character girls mistreat her, and I feel no sympathy for them. Like, you're both being awful to her for no real reason. There is a huge chunk of this book about the characters just going to a bar and hanging out. Like I said, it's not a magical bar. There's nothing unusual about it. We're not learning anything about these characters or the world they're inhabiting. It's literally just a regular bar, just like we have on Earth, and they're just hanging out there for a while, and nothing happens. And that's a surprisingly large chunk of this book, actually. It's just that one time they're going to a bar. And at one point after that, they go to a party, and all the glasses are actually made of ice. Like, they use magic to do that, and for just, like, a brief second, I was like, oh, cool. They actually used their magic for something. They remembered this is a fucking fantasy story, and they remembered that magic can be utilized in very interesting ways. But then I thought about it, and I was like, that's actually very stupid. If your glass is actually made of ice, sure, that'll help keep your drink cold, but also, that'll melt as you're holding it, and it'll be really cold and kind of uncomfortable to hold, and it'll get slippery, and you know, you'll drop it. Why would you actually make a glass out of ice? That doesn't make sense. Just put ice in the glass. And that is the only time in this entire book where the authors tried to imply that magic is used outside of just random bullying. I don't know, man. What else do you want me to say? Like, there is no plot here. None at all. Like, there's barely even foreshadowing for something that might happen later. There is no world building. It is just our world and a Hogwarts clone so two-dimensional that it is see-through. There are no characters. They are all just generically hot, and they all hate the main character girls for no reason, or they love them for no reason. You know, motivation, personality, development, fuck all that shit. That's all gone. None of that is in here. These are Barbie dolls that we smash together and project ourselves onto. Like, seriously, if you're gonna write porn, just be honest about it. And I know there's going to be one or two people in the comments crying that this isn't porn. It is porn. It's there for you to get off to. You're only denying that because you're ashamed of your own sexuality. Grow up. What else is there? What else is there to say here? Like, I know there's sequels to this book, but like I haven't read them. I don't really feel like reading them. Maybe if this video does extremely well, I'll read them, but I can't. What else can I say? What else can I say? This is paper thin. I can't say, like, oh, well, this isn't my cup of tea, but I understand why you would like it, because I don't. Like, there's nothing here to like. There's barely even anything here to hate. So why am I still talking? Ahoy! Thank you for watching this far. If you didn't watch this far, but you still wound up here somehow, then I still appreciate you. You're great. All these names you see here, these are my patrons. You can go over to Patreon and pay $1 a month or more if you feel like it. Get access to stuff like one exclusive video every month, early access to videos, things of that nature. My $10 and up patrons are Arthur D. Gonzalez Martin, Brother Santodes, Carolina Klee, Lexi Delorme, Lord Tiebreaker, Michael and Katie Hake, Mr. A5013, Proscriptions of Dwojang, Psych XX, Slumbering Jellyfish, Observing Outer Space, Tesla Shark, Toa Michael, Vevictus, and Wesley, as well as all the other names here. I appreciate all their support. Also appreciate all of my people over on YouTube who are channel members. Yeah, you can become a channel member and get most of the same bonuses that you get from Patreon. You just don't get your names here. And you know what? Everybody who just watches my stuff, you're all great. I couldn't do this without you. Please rate this video, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my merchandise, which you can go down below and look at. And, you know, all that other stuff I'm supposed to say here. Have a lovely day, and goodbye.